Hi, my name is Nicholas Kennedy. I'll be talking about the 6 exits to the roadmap to responsibility. Uh, these exits help prepare teachers for certain behaviors that they will see during their career so they can effectively change behavior in a positive way. And basically, this section of the book talks about how throughout your whole career you're going to see these children take these exits, and this section helps you better recognize when they are taking these exits and how you can positively change their behavior to affect them in a positive way. These exits are benefits of changing behavior, emotional control, clear expectations, consistency, leadership in challenging moments, and responsibility, or be clear. Benefits of changing behavior. You need to make your benefits relevant and personal. That way the student really cares about those benefits. And embracing the benefits, I talked about a bunch of tips that were on pages 63 and 64, but the one tip I liked the most was how it said, just remember what it was like when you, the teacher, was a student way back many years. The best quote I liked about in this chapter, it was in the winning scenario. Winning is moving the conversation to where the student is more inclined to solve the problem. And I think that's really important because these, if you keep with this roadmap to responsibilities, eventually the students are going to learn to accept the responsibility and learn ways to solve their conflicts. And it's important to remember that all behavior has a need. So all these negative behaviors that you see during class, whether the student is acting up or whether the student is, maybe all over you or something like that. If they're all over you, it might be because they want affection or something like that. And if they're acting up, it might just be because they want attention. It's important to remember that the student is acting up probably because of a need. Emotional control. Don't always push off difficult kids to people of higher power. And this part, it talked about how he, in the early part of his career, dealt with a challenging student by giving him to the principal. And in a way, it sounded like the principal was kind of abusive toward this student. So he went home that night feeling embarrassed and humiliated, and he came back the next day and apologized to the student, saying that he should have handled that way better. And then eventually they came up with a resolution of, if the student ever needs to take time, that he can step out for a few minutes. One part of this section I liked was that some students will look like they will not do something rather than they cannot do something. And most of the time it's because the child is embarrassed, so they'll just act like they will not do something when it might be because they can't or don't know how to do something. So it's important to recognize when a student says, no, I'm not going to do this, that it's probably because they don't know how to do it. So you need kind of to steer them in the right direction and help them to be able to do that. It's important to remember that you as a teacher is a role model to these students. So if the student sees you getting upset after a challenging situation, when they come across a challenging situation, they are also going to get upset. So, throughout the whole school days, it's just very important to remember that, eyes are on you all the time. So always try your best to demonstrate great emotional control. So in turn, that the student will also demonstrate great emotional control. I really like the red, yellow, blue mats, which gives these students the responsibility and puts them in a situation, and it really puts them in control. So red meaning that they're not willing to talk about, the conflict that might have occurred. Yellow means that they're working toward talking about the conflict that has occurred, and they're working on a solution. And then blue meaning that they're ready to talk about it and that they are ready to implement their solution to whatever conflict or problem that they might have had. Clear expectations. The first part of this section talked about starting with a foundation to be safe, be prepared, be respectful, and be responsible. Be safe. With the foundation, it talked about the we will, which is an assertive way of the whole class saying that they will do something, or that every day that this is going to happen. So for the be prepared, it just talked about how you start out with we will be prepared by bringing our books to class every day, our pencils to class, and our tools that we need to learn every day. So that was just one example that it talked about. Instead of pages and pages of rules stating what not to do, these 3 to 5 items should be simple, positive, and fit neatly on a poster. And also talked about posting it all the way up throughout the whole school. That way, it provides a consistent manner throughout the whole school what is expected from you from each class. In middle school, I had a class to where my English was in one section and math was in the other. So it was kind of hard to know what was expected from you for each teacher. But if it was agreed with both those teachers of what is expected from them, and then posted throughout the school what is expected from you, it's going to be really clear for the student of what is expected from you in both classrooms. Expectations should be set in the beginning of the school year. I like the idea of maybe kind of writing down your expectations on a piece of paper and then sending it to all the students. And I also like the idea of having the students come up with expectations at the beginning of the year, and then you can post those expectations down on a paper and have them sign your contract, and then also when they sign that, send it to their parents and have their parents sign it so they can send it back. And I think that really closes the I didn't know about this, or I didn't know this was expected from me. I think it really closes that exit. I think it's important to be consistent, and this section talked about the consistency. At the end of the chapter, one thing that really stuck out was the suspensions. He talked about how it makes no sense how you can send a child home for punishment, and sometimes it might be actually something that they want. So they recognize that I want to go home, so I'll just get suspended and I'll be home for 2 to 3 days. And it really hurts them academically. Because you're sending the child home, so they're not getting what they need in school, and they're also missing out on all those assignments that they would be doing during the time that they're suspended for. So he talked about how it really makes no sense for these children and these students to be suspended as a punishment. Without consistency throughout the school, students will struggle to navigate around the teacher's different discipline methods. I think this is important, especially in like high school where you have 8 teachers throughout your whole day, and you'll know that this teacher wants this or will discipline you like this, and this teacher will discipline you like this, and it really gets things kind of confusing throughout the school day. So I think it's important as a school to get together and be consistent, each teacher, and make sure each teacher is enforcing each of those rules or expectations. It also talked about how skills go up, anxiety goes down, meaning that if you're more skilled in all these challenging moments, you're not going to be worried about these challenging moments occurring. You'll just be ready for it. And it said don't give up, meaning that if Tommy has his feet on the desk and you told Tommy 3 times to take your feet off the desk and he refuses to listen, don't give up and just say, well, he's not listening to me, so I'll just move on. I'm not going to worry about it. Keep at it, because it'll teach Tommy that it's obviously not okay to put your feet on the desk, and that he needs to listen to you, and that either way he's going to have to take his feet off the desk, and you're not going to back down. And it said make sure you're consistent with every student. So Sally might be the best person in class and Tommy's the troublemaker of the class. So if you yell at Tommy for something, or not yell at Tommy, but if you approach Tommy about a certain problem, like for instance the feet on the desk, and Sally puts her feet on the desk, but Sally's such a good student and you don't want to bother telling Sally to take her feet off the desk, it's really important to make sure you also tell Sally, the best student in the class, that you need to take your feet off the desk. That way it is consistent throughout the whole classroom. Leadership in challenging moments. It said don't pass off your opportunities to be a leader in challenging moments, meaning you're going to face challenging moments and you don't want to push it off to the principal or whoever else, another teacher, because it really diminishes your authority. So like some questions that are commonly used in the classroom is, do I need to call your parents, or do you need to talk to the principal? Which kind of sends a message to the student saying, I can't do anything about it, but the principal can, or your parents can. You want to let them know that you are in charge and that you will take action for whatever challenge that you are going to come across. And it kind of goes back into the being a role model and showing them that you will face whatever challenge that you might come across. At the end of it talked about, I may be sitting down on the outside, but I am standing up on the inside. So it meant by you're obeying on the outside, but you might not be actually learning or growing in responsibility on the inside. Responsibility is the ability to respond well, address the student's behavior when the behavior starts. So it talked about, you see this behavior occur, go face that behavior now and approach that behavior and let them know, that behavior is not okay. And you have to do it right then and there, because if you wait a while and say, I'll just wait till the end of school to let them know that that's not okay, obviously that won't be fair to whoever had that negative behavior, and they might not be so understanding about that negative behavior. The Give 'em 5 conversations is this hand that I have in the bottom right corner that I really loved. It had support, expectation, breaking it down, benefit, and your closure. Some things that I had it marked in the book that it talked about was keep it private, keep safety in mind, maintain a non-threatening position, stay out of power struggles, and just many more tips that it had actually within the hand. I couldn't find a picture on that, but it's very important to use this method when coming across a conflict, because it's the most beneficial to the student. Sometimes the teacher needs a time as well as the student. So meaning that, the student and the teacher are both maybe mad at each other. So it's important to take time apart from each other and just take time to clear mind and reapproach the situation when is a better time to approach it. And that way you're not butting heads the whole time. And the last slide I have here is the best quote I found throughout this whole section of the book. And it talked about the importance of the roadmap to responsibility. So using this roadmap to responsibility means giving children the time and tools necessary to increase their critical thinking skills, to improve their confidence, and to enhance their ability to solve their own problems. Like I said, I think this is really the best quote that I read throughout the whole section of this book, because it really shows the reason why we want to implement this roadmap to responsibility, because it really improves their critical thinking skills when they come into conflicts with teacher and student and student and student, and improves their confidence in those situations, and they will be able to solve their own problem when they do come across the conflict or any challenging moment that they may come across throughout their growing up time in their life. So that's all I have. Thank you.